So we're going to go just into the vertical. And just play a little bit with it coming right out from the toes and letting the heel kind of impact the ground. Okay, that's coming to kind of front and back. And really moving from the chest area. That's it, nice. We play a little bit in this area, in this feeling of kind of closing and opening. So a little bit, in a sense, you're going to kind of, we call it kind of turtle back. So you kind of turtle back, and then really kind of opening out the chest. So just play a little bit of mobility in this whole area. This is kind of from position. Oh yeah. Yeah, and just play also in this case with the hands kind of forward, but keep them kind of loose, but also play with, just in a sense, kind of rolling the back forward, a little bit like you're kind of rowing. So it's kind of, in a really bad way, rowing, in a very inefficient way, but trying to really just try and mobilize this whole area. That's it. Yeah. And you can also do this way. This is coming to a really bad kind of Torifu movement. No, Torifu? No, I can't remember the name in Japanese now. They do a kind of rowing motion from the Shinto. Yeah, that's it. There we go. I never remember the names. That's why I never do them. So just play a little bit, but it's a really bad one. So you're kind of really rounding the back out. Really drawing, let the body kind of roll back. So it's like a very unstructured. And you can also do this on the other side. It's kind of very open, and it's just really exploring this kind of front and back. Good, and then just take those directions now. You go to a kind of side to side, swing over. And again, feel you can also use the hands. I don't tend to use the hands in these kind of exercises. This one's a little bit like, what I like to explore these is like, as if someone's got my wrist and they're kind of pulling me over. So it's got a kind of strange quality. It's not as if I'm kind of pushing over with my body. It's like someone's kind of pulling it over. So it's kind of a nice feeling. Yeah. Just explore it a little. And you can also feel that the hand just gets kind of sunk, pulled down to the ground. That's what we normally do. So we normally just kind of let the arm sink, and the feelings that the body gets kind of drawn down with it. Just explore it a little bit. And then just go to this kind of really flexible kind of spinal wave through the side of the spine. Just let the arms release. That's it. And also play with really involved in the head in the motion, the whole neck, everything's going to kind of coil over. Just imagine every part of the body is being involved in this lateral movement. That's it. That's it. Good. And then just going into a kind of rotation, just work your way into it. So. And again, just keeping it nice and loose to start. So you can really allow the feet to come out of the ground. One foot. Might be a bit difficult to do both. One. And also just exploring the arms again, so just see that you can kind of let them out. That's it. That's it. Also exploring a little bit more towards the ground, not too much. But just let the arms kind of swing you down a little bit towards the ground in the front, and you can also explore towards the ground at the back. Ooh, there we go. And then just kind of center the feet again, and then just coming back into a kind of very grounded spiraling motion. Just play with the hands a little bit. You can just kind of send them out. You can also, yeah, good. You can also do this with the arms. Yeah, so you can do this kind of thing, or you can kind of have them separated. Just play a little bit with the arms. You can also do this kind of thing with the arms. If the shoulders kind of really loose, or really tense, start to work with these. So just. There's a very, very famous UFC fighter called Conor McGregor, and he trained with a trainer, and he taught him all these exercises, how to loosen all the limbs out. And you can see him do the exercises before he does a fight. But he's one of the most flexible UFC fighters I've seen, so he's very, very, very good. But he learned all these kind of exercises because they really help mobilize the whole body. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Okay, good. Good. And then we just go to this kind of spinal wave. So really opening it out front and back, closing it, opening, and just let it pass through the whole body. Also really now working the knees, let the body kind of sink down a little bit more. Open all the way up, close all the way down. You can also play a little bit with this. We don't tend to do this in Aikido, but what you can do when you close down is kind of close everything down. So all the toes, the feet, the knees, everything's going to kind of come down into these kind of positions. You're going to close down here, and then when you open out, you basically pull back into the heels, and then you're basically going to open the. Seems a bit funny. Now John talked about mind that kind of reminding me of these kind of positions, but you're basically going to really play with opening, open the body out. Very kind of strange movement to do, but really involving the whole body in this kind of opening. Let's play a little bit. That's good. That's it. Okay, and then this is a slight variation on it. It's a little bit more of a downwards movement. So it's a bit like the swing kind of movement. I don't know if we did it. We really did it on Sunday once, but you're going to basically wave down and basically push the hands out at the same time. So you're going to come from this position down. This position. It's a little bit more of a dynamic movement. And again, it's like this kind of rowing motion this way. But you're basically in a kind of deep squat. You basically roll the body down and then find the arms here. And then draw it back up. here. And as we're working on this kind of wave motion, just see if you can find a sense of a wave through the whole motion. Now, sometimes do these in terms of structuring the body, but just for this morning, just looking really at mobilizing different areas of the body. So especially look at the back as you come through. It's kind of it's a really bad form to kind of do this, but just play with slightly rounding the back and pulling the chest out. It's just about mobilizing. Just want the spine to start to loosen out. That's it, good. Right. So. Very nice. Can I take a quick look? That's nice. Great. Good. And then just from this position, you can use a slightly wide leg, or you can use the feet kind of closer together. Just let the body drop down from the hip. And then just increasingly, just take a few moments, just really feel the body drop down all the way to the ground. Feel the upper body's just draining. As if all the blood, everything's just kind of draining down towards the ground. Try and loosen the shoulders off more and more. Especially the head now, let it just release towards the ground. Just a few moments. Good. And then just start to connect the movement in. You're going to start with a swing, front and back. Hands going just between the legs and then out. And just start with a nice, kind of a small movement. So it's just been initiated with the hips and the spine. Just try and pass the movement through the whole body. Nice and loose. Keep the knees nice and relaxed. And just explore a little bit the difference between if my weight's in the front of the foot, in the toes, or if I'm kind of grounding down in the back. You can do both, but you probably feel more comfortable with the weight really grounding in the back, the foot, the heel. Okay, and then just start to open out now the hands to the side. So they're going to kind of cross across the body and then open out. Across and open out. So you're just going to kind of sideways swing. And again, just imagine the hands are kind of heavy being pulled down. Trying to release more and more the shoulders. And then you're going to work now into circles. So just passing kind of circles through the hands. And see, just explore a little bit. You can work the arms kind of together so that you're drawing patterns like this, or you can work the arms kind of separately so that they do like a wax on, wax off. They do kind of boom, 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 boom. So see if you can make the movement kind of independent in each shoulder, and also see if you can pass the movement into both at the same time. Or you've got the motion where I can basically isolate it into one shoulder. And it's all to do with the hips. So see if you can make this connection from the hips into the hands. Quite a strange feeling. And then just start to bring the motion together. The arms are going to circle out. And then what I want to do is just come back into the vertical. Nice and slow. Focus more and more. Swinging up. Feel the body just raise and drain down. Raise and drain down. Just take your time with it. Just until you get to the vertical. Just use the whole kind of motion. Loosening down, sinking up. Just do a few where you've got the full range of being up and all the way down. All the way down. Good. And then once you've got that, just start to now sink the body down. but keep the vertical now. Just rolling the shoulders. And really exploring the shoulder joint, really let the arms kind of brush against the air if you can. Full range of movement. And then you're going to just reverse it, let the arms come across the body, and it's as if the arms just brush against the face. Full range of motion. And again, letting the body also drop through the movement. Again, try and feel that the hands really are connected into the hips. Good. And then we'll work from top to bottom. We're just going to start with this one. So the shoulders, front and back. And again, let the whole movement kind of pass through the whole arm, all the way to the fingertips. So it's kind of, I either think of it like a wave through the arm, or I think like a bird flapping. So it's got this kind of quality of the movement really reaching out and beyond the fingertips. So that's it. And then just increase the rotation in the spine. I'll start to fly up a bit more. Onto the top of the head. And then just see if you can carry it over. Just keep in one direction. And just see if you can reverse it. Oi, lost it. There we go. That's it. Yeah. It was more and more heavy as you do this. So, good. And then we'll go to the hips. So just using this exercise, keep it nice and fluid. And again, look at this kind of wave that passes through the arms. It's kind of flapping motion of the arms. But you basically the ground acting on the heaviest part, just drawing the shoulder, and then the elbow, and then the wrist, and then the hand. So it's going to act on the heavy thing first. And just really focusing now on trying to find a spiral through the whole body, and basically letting the spiral enter right into the ground. And, feel everything just drains through. That's nice. So, good. And then we'll go to the last one for the knees. So just kind of this swing, raising up, dropping down. A bit light. So when you do this, just watch it. This one, just that I don't raise the toes in the front. They basically create instability in the body. So when you do this, as you drain down, focus on the hips and the back of the knees, basically falling into the heels. So when I drop, I've got this feeling of run through the ground. If I go in the floor like this, the body basically gets thrown forwards and out. So just think about throwing the weight towards the back of the heel with the back of the foot. So it should feel very flexible, but also very stable. That's also really one of the qualities we're looking for in Aikido. So this exercise for me is really perfect. Again, just watch the position of the head so that I don't create kind of excess tension as I come down. There's either a tendency to do this, pull the head back, or collapse the head down. So just look for a position where the head and the neck is basically an extension of the spine. So if I'm ever kind of questioning the position of the head, I just think of the neck, the head as really an elongation of the spine. And then I just let it follow the core of the body. And then I let the spine basically govern the head. There. Okay, just gonna watch everything. So that's very nice. Go right. Oh. And you're all doing it and I'm not. Try it. Yeah, you're actually all focusing on the upswing as well. So just a few, just do more than you're doing now because I wasn't doing. So just focus a little bit on the swing up. So this also really relates into the sword work where you kind of really have the sense of the upswing's got a kind of dynamic quality. So all the movement's got a kind of dynamism. There's a tendency in what I was doing just before is just to raise the arms or lift the arms. I think that the arms get swing down. Swing down. You have a kind of full dynamic movement. And just what I want you to do is just slow it down now. And just cut the range so that you're basically working hands come up, down. You're basically softening the movement. Keep all the weight basically centering down. Keep the body grounded. You're just going to slow it down. Look for the center in the body. And for us, if I break this movement down, this also relates yesterday what we're doing with Ikkyo. This kind of feeling of as I raise, coming up to these kind of positions, and not coming into this kind of position. I go to an Ikkyo, but the feeling's to kind of raise up underneath that kind of quality. That's, and then just more and more, lower the hands. Good. Let the hands just go. Okay, good. Just take a bokken. Not doing bokken all week, so we'll do a little bit. Okay, we're gonna do something I never do because I think it's in a way it's a bit wrong, but we're gonna do it and I'm gonna do it in hopefully in a way that's not wrong. So there's sometimes in sword schools you'll see them do from horse stance like this, and they basically do this. So they do cutting like this in the beginning, and it's basically calisthenic. It's just to warm the students up. But actually, in a way, it's kind of wrong because you're practicing something that later you would never do. I would never just cut with the arms. So in this case, we're going to do the same movement. I'm going to try and mobilize the whole body. So it's basically the same as we do when we do kind of shoulder width pod. It's a little bit wider. You're going to let the toes splay out. I'll do this way so you can see that. Splay out, and the key thing in this is that the hip, knee, and toes fall into one line. So the two lines are coming out from the body this way. So what you're going to do is it's the same as we make in the cut. Find the back, and then I'm really going to drop lower the hips and just find the position here. The first few really just focus on the hips. So let the sword basically just be pulled down. So the main problem with this is I go to repetitious and I go to the arms. Yeah, and it feels great, but it's really not very useful in terms of training. So just do this very slow. Find the vertical and then drop, and then engage the hip. It's a kind of dynamic, kind of squatting. Just this check. That's it. You have a very stable base actually. So this is actually a nice exercise to really have the feeling of the hip dropping into the feet. You've got a wide base and you've got a super stable base. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, and this also reveals interest. So if you exaggerate movements, you tend to exaggerate the habits that I've got. So one of them tends to be in this kind of exercise that I find the back, and then what I do is release from the knee. So there's a feeling the hips don't really release, but I do it with the knee. And then what basically happens is I fall through the movement. and then the hips go, whoa, where the hell up, where's my support? So basically what you want is the feeling that the hips drop down, open the knees, so that the feeling is that this drops first, and then the knees open to that pressure, rather than the hips do nothing and the knees open, and then the hips basically fall back into a position, and that's when I go to tension. So I go to this kind of position. So just feel like from this position, you drop through the whole hip, the whole region of the hip drops. Now, if you're kind of stuck with the knees, you feel the knees are doing it. Just have the sense that the hips engage into the move. So see from here, the hips engage, and then I drop them in. So just what I'm doing is engaging the core, and then dropping it into the feet. Just play a little bit with it. Just to get the kind of structure of it. Yeah, that's it. It's as if the legs are like a bridge, and you're basically placing a big weight on them, and the bridge is basically expanding to accommodate the top of the body. But I don't want the bridge to collapse, and then the lower body, the upper body basically falls onto nothing. That's it. That's it. Nice. Great. Looks good. Good. Yeah, and this is more a feeling than a technical point, but it sometimes translates into, basically it's about efficiency. So in this case, if I think about a bridge, think about the pressures basically inside the legs. Basically, what my focus is on the internal arc of the body. There's a tendency, in this case, as I go down, to go into external tension. I basically hold the legs, and then I'm basically in this kind of position. It looks the same, but this feels totally different. This feels all my legs start to do this, so they start to shake with the tension. And if I do 10 minutes of this, the legs just get destroyed. So feel that you basically soften inside the structure, where the legs act as this kind of internal bridge. And it's like I'm sitting on one of those big yoga balls. So see those big inflatable yoga balls. I'm basically sitting down inside the bridge, but I'm not holding myself forward with an externally, which looks the same on the camera. I think it looks the same. Let's try and exaggerate it. Internal, external. Just see if you can get it. The best way is this idea of just sitting on a kind of big inflatable ball. The center feels just boom, just plops down. Boom. That's it. So. Good. These are basically two extra. There's three exercises, and there's basically two extremes. The first one's very wide, and then there's a middle position where we normally do, and then there's a narrow position. So we're going to go now to the narrow position. Just do this very slowly. But it can be dangerous for the knees if I do it in a kind of fast way. So this starts from a position like this, where basically the toes are out, splayed out again, and the heels are touching. So what you're going to do now, as you play this without the sword, you basically raise up onto the toes, keep the heels touching, and then I just sink everything down into the feet this way. I'm coming into a kind of full squat, and the heels are off the ground. The key point in this is to keep the heels touching through the motion. So just rising through it, sinking down. So you do this in the kind of order is, I raise up onto the toes, and then I sink down, keeping the heels in contact. And then I come back up, and then I sink the heels back into the ground. And all the time, see if you can keep the contact with the heels. Just give this a few. We're only going to do a few of these because. And this is, you'll now hopefully feel much less balance. So much less stability. So you'll find you're working much more in your balance, your sense of balance now. It's quite a strange movement, but quite nice. So. Good. And the Japanese have tons of these squatting kind of motions. Most of them come from the sumo wrestling tradition. So lots of these actually don't come from sword work, they come from sumo work. So just try now with the sword, do this really slow. And again, just find the feet in the right position, find the kind of sword kamae. And you're going to do the same. I'm going to raise up onto the toes, and I'm going to bring the sword to the back. So this is really straight, a really clear vertical through the body. And then again, keep the heels in contact, drop down, and just place the sword. So in this case, don't do a kind of full cut. Just have the sense that you're raising up. You can also each time kind of sink down if you feel like it. Just come up, bring down, and now really feel the balance of the body. Everything should be dropping down towards the ground. Actually, do it this way. Just so you do a break in between. I'll show you the way. Show you the way I do it kind of carefully. So you raise up onto the toes, drain down, place. And then from here, just raise up without raising the sword. So I just come back into kamae, and then I sink the heels down. And this is just to give you a little bit of a break between. So you don't want to do this kind of in a repetitious way. Do this really kind of carefully. Down, just placing the sword. Really feel that you find the ground with the sword. And then just raise up, and then sink the heels down. Just try a few. I'm just going to watch, see what happens. Yeah. Good. And you find they do these movements in really old sword schools, where they've got really long kind of bow ends to the forms. They'll do forms like this. You'll probably sometimes see them. Tricky, the balance is good. Okay, nice. Good. Yeah. Very nice. So, okay, good. So the best thing, don't do too much of that. It's really kind of hard on the knees. So we're going to do one form now. It's this kind of a strange one. You basically are going to start from here. So this is a bit kind of formal thing, but in this case, the sword's just at the side. You basically come out into kamae, right leg forward, and then you're going to take one step, two, and then you're going to drop towards the ground. And I'm just going to lower everything into the ground. And I'm going to place the sword in the ground. This way, like this, keeping the spine long. And then you're going to come back up, and you're going to take one, two. Again, feet come together. And then you just take your time again. One, two, sink down, find the sword, come back up, and then you're back into the kamae. This way. So just try this a few times. This is a kind of long sequence, and you go from this position. Do it again. Come into the kamae. Take a step. One, two, drop. Sit down nice and carefully. Coming back up. Take one, two, back to the middle. And then again, step in, meet the sword. And up, back, and then away. It's quite a long sequence. Just give it a try. I'm just going to watch. Okay, good. That's it. Yeah, I think I've been telling people all week, don't look at the screens. I think I know on the evening class I think I was telling people, don't look at the screens, forget the screen. In this case, actually use the screen. This is the Japanese use this. This is part of the kind of reiki, the kind of bowing to a form from another school. But it's basically it's used as a kind of it's used for respect and all these kind of etiquette things. But the main thing they use it for is concentration. And in the word in Japanese zanchin, this kind of constant kind of alertness to your surroundings. So in a sense, I want to, with this form, lots of people do this, and I go kind of internal. So I go kind of, and what I'm doing, and the feet, and the sword, and I basically close everything down. Now, if you can imagine, you're basically doing this you're doing this with someone else. So in a sense, maybe it's best we do it kind of together, but just have the sense of focusing on something kind of outside. So I'll use the camera. So you basically keep the attention forward. So through all these movements coming through, basically my attention is outside, coming through and then down. And I basically keep the attention out. So I'm not really looking at my own body, and I'm definitely not looking at the sword. So it's got this kind of quality. And there's a real sense of soft focus through the whole form. So it's a movement exercise, but it's really a concentration exercise, an attention exercise. Let's do a few like this. In this case, it's good to have a kind of focus. The eyes need to have a softness because you're basically softening the eyes to be ready for anything, ready for the unexpected. And it's also a very good exercise for balance as well, because I need to be like a bit like a cat. I need to be constantly on balance. Because if you think the quality is that I can basically launch an attack from any of the positions, or a defensive movement. So it's got this kind of quality, like a cat. That's it. Nice. Very good. So, and then just come back to the position when you can. Just take your time, and then we'll go somewhere else. That's it. Just in your own time. Good. Nice. Super. Good. Everyone's back, I think. Oh, Caroline. Good. Keep going. Good. That's it. So. Nice. So. Good. Great. So I use this exercise sometimes as a lead into awase exercises, especially something that's kind of short, like Migi awase or Hidari awase. They're very short exercises, so the tendency is to get to them and do kind of, we do 3 and then we change, and they go into kind of repetition. So sometimes I use this to break down the fact that they're actually blending exercises. So I'll use these in a way that we blend together with the moves. So coming to this and coming down. And these I just took them from an very old source school in Japan. But just come now back into the kamae. We're going to come back to that, I think, at the end. Well, depending on what happens, we'll maybe use it again at the end. But just come now into the first suburi. Just coming back, dropping the hips in. Just nice and slow. Really big moves. And hopefully you'll feel also the hips are really stable. The lower body's really activated. The upper body's hopefully kind of following. Nice. Also, really look for a kind of dynamic movement up. So the fill them upswing and the downswing. Wow. Nice. Nice. Very nice. Okay, good. I think I made this point on Wednesday. It was super clear with someone, not someone that's not here, but someone else. But there's a tendency when I make the cut, and sometimes we do it. It's almost automatic. That as I cut down, the feeling in the left hand is to pull up with the sword. So it's to do a kind of double action with it. So I've got a kind of feeling of this hand pushing down and this one kind of pulling up. And all it does is really create tension through the cut. So it just creates a kind of tension through the shoulders. Just in this case, really have the sense that both hands, where I do the swinging kind of motion quite a lot, is because the feeling is really that the sword just cuts down. So there's a feeling of this happening rather than this happening. If I do this, then basically the sword skips out of the grip, and then I have to hold it with tension because I'm basically pulling up. So I'm doing kind of two actions rather than one. So in this case, just feel like as you come out, everything sinks down. So it just sinks down. That great picture of Saito Sensei hitting the tire is really a perfect image for this. He's just sinking straight down into the cut. So everything's just sinking straight down through it. Just there. That's it. That's it. So there's no kind of push down and there's no kind of pull up with the hands. Just a kind of sinking feeling. Boom. Yeah, good. Yeah, exactly. Very nice. Great. Super. Good. Okay, go now to Zengo. Zengo, Giddy. Cut in the right side, roll over the left. And again, just working on the left side as well. There's a tendency here to do this. Yeah, and kind of do it. But just feel again, just draining down. And the hands are just catching the sword. That's it. Oh. Okay, good. So the action in terms of the sword work, the Japanese use the term shime. So they use the term shime, and it basically in Japanese just translates as squeezing. So it translates as squeeze, and they will use these Japanese washcloths that everyone kind of carries around, and they will basically do this kind of action. They basically do this with the washcloth to get all the water out of it. So the action they use is for this kind of squeeze of the sword. Is this kind of action. So I've got these kind of toys because they kind of help with the grip and they help with the feeling of, you can see, help with the feeling of really the sense of the whole back of the hand squeezing down. So it's got this kind of quality. And squeeze is a kind of strange word in English because it tends to go towards tightness, but it's just the feeling of the whole hand kind of closing. So it's got this quality of just closing. So in basically just doing that kind of motion. And that's happening in both hands together at the same time. So it's this kind of quality. So the Japanese use this word shime, which basically means kind of squeeze. And it also means strangle. So you'll also hear it in judo. Shime is also in a sense to kind of strangle the person. So they use it as a double function. But in a sense, when we talk about sword work, it's about kind of squeezing. This. And we tend to, the actual better English word is focus, because it's kind of focusing. And it's a slightly different area, but just have the sense that the base of the bokken is being secured into the hands, into the grip. Just play with both sides. And you probably feel the left side's a bit harder to find, just because of the arrangement of the hands. Just keep this sense all the time of a kind of squeezing motion with the hands. That's it. Very nice. Oh, good. Very nice.
Marco,
Yeah.
do you also this squeezing?
Oh, he's gone mute. Bernie, you're on mute.
I'll have to push it like this. If you squeeze like this, do you then also rotate it a little bit inwards?
That's where I kind of, that's a little bit why I don't like this. Where have I gone?
Is it just this instead of?
Yeah, it's a little bit why I don't really like this ringing. The Japanese call it this kind of motion, because the tendency is with people to do this. Because if you tell people in the West to squeeze like a cloth or rags, then they'll do like this. They'll do this motion. Now that's what I don't want to happen, because then I'm basically doing that through the arms. Yeah. And you actually see this. I actually see this in Japan when I see people do the sword work. There's a tendency to that squeezing kind of translates to this. So it translates to a kind of motion where I'm doing this kind of motion, and you see it actually I see it quite clearly in a lot of kind of styles. So I don't really like that. I like this feeling that I'm just kind of dropping down. So it's if you look at that picture you sent of Saito Sensei, this feeling where it's really just like the arm sinks down and it's just the hand closing. So I think more about gripping. I think also in terms of why we do that, or one of the reasons you can train this is that this idea of gripping someone or something. So it's got this quality that I'm just kind of focusing on the kind of squeeze or the gripping kind of motion, but it's not doing that kind of motion where I'm basically
no ringing or
it's not got a ringing, it's not got a kind of ringing quality. So it's not got that kind of quality. So I'm basically
elbows in and shoulder up and
and I'm strangling the whole body then. Everything goes around. But I want this sense of expansion. So I want to keep that sense of expansion out. And it's really just a sense of the arm dropping and catching.
Yeah.
Or this kind of squeezing without ringing. That kind of feeling. Hopefully that's clear. Squeeze without ringing. Oh yeah, just try this as just an exercise. Just imagine that this is a bit like gripping, so you can use the bokken however you like, you can use the handle, but just feel that you're gripping someone in like a marotadori with both hands. So it's basically the same, and also you see in Saito Sensei's book, he describes the sword grip and the grabbing method are basically the same. Now we don't tend to train the grabbing method, so we don't train how to grab in Aikido, although we do it a hell of a lot. We don't train how to grab properly, but we do train it in the sword work. So the actual sword work is used as a way to aid the gripping method. So just try a few, and I'm basically going to just find the ground this way. Now in terms of what Bernie's saying, what I don't want to do is grab and then ring out. This is what most of us tend to do, because we tend to grab and then lock the arms in place. And then all I do is basically create a lock between my body. Now it feels strong, but I'm actually very fragile. So I have a kind of fragile strength. And what I'm looking for in Aikido is a kind of flexible strength. So I want a position that I'm there and very flexible. So the grip's very strong, but I've got a freedom to basically use the rest of my body. So just play a few times with it. You can do left side, right side, and just have the sense of grounding, grabbing, squeezing very, very, very tight. I'm grabbing really, really strongly in the sword. So I'm grabbing as strongly as I can, but I'm trying to basically release through the upper body as well. So the upper body shouldn't translate into tension. And that. So just look for a sense that I can basically fire on the grip and really ground the lower body, but the upper body should be relatively soft. So just try a few.
Michael, basically you're looking for a same feeling as when you would be splitting wood with an axe, a heavy axe.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of quality where the moment of impact, boom, everything needs to kind of fire.
You put it down, but you don't wringle the axe, because that will definitely put you in harm's way.
Exactly. So any kind of movement like this, cutting wood and all these kind of digging holes, I really like these because they're very simple, and you basically can't do them wrong. What you can
do, but you will stop with it.
You can do them very wrong, but they're very dangerous. So you do them right very quickly. In the bokken work, we tend to spend years doing it all wrong because we've got a kind of freedom. But just look for a little bit of rank. That's it. Hopefully you can kind of feel. So it's a little bit, I've gone a little bit sideways, so it's okay. Gripping, very important topic. Saito Sensei says in his book, gripping is like an art in itself. So I think he's kind of right in a sense. There's a whole kind of art to gripping. That's it. So very nice. Okay, good. And as we've gone into gripping, I'm going to just follow it. So in this case, just start with the bokken out to the right side. This is basically the same as we did yesterday with the joba, just now using the bokken. So just the first one also, I'm not really focusing on the grip in this case because I'm just kind of soft with the hand. So in a sense, you're replicating a stance where I'm just kind of offering and opening the hand, and then I get grip. So just this position is quite relaxed, nice and grounded. And we're going to do the same move as we did yesterday, sliding out to the side. Now I like doing this with the bokken because it gives me an extra feeling of slicing out this way. Okay, so just focusing on just that first motion. And you can do this left side, right side as well. You might find it easier just to stick to the right, but just that first motion. So you ground, relax, open out, and then slice everything out to the side. That's it. And the key thing in this motion is the whole body makes this slicing motion. So really feel that it's not just the arm and the sword that do it, but the whole body has this kind of slicing quality. Yeah, that's it. So as we kind of move from sword work, bukiwaza into taijutsu, it basically means I'm going to open the movements out. So the body does a lot. The body does a lot more now. The movements are much more circular, much more open.
Michael.
Yeah.
Do I change the angle in 90 degrees?
In this, yeah, you're gonna be. If I do this way, this is the kind of thing. I'm gonna slice out this way.
Yeah.
This way, you see that? So if I do this way, I'm gonna really come out to the side. This way, that way.
So I change my hamni. I change my hamni with 90 degrees, more or less.
Not quite 90. If you think about it, if in terms of partner work, my partner's in front of me. I'm basically going to align the body to the person. So my initial movement is sideways. But that hammy is basically a shift where I'm aligning to the person. So I'm always basically aligning to the person that way.
Yeah.
But it's a bit in the hammy. Hopefully.
Yeah. Thank you.
The ball. Yeah. That's it. That's it. Good. And then just now go to the grip as we're looking at the grip. Now keep the front hand light as you slice over. The back hand's going to come in and really take. And I'm going to grip with really the back of the hand. So I'm doing this kind of action. And again, I'm looking for that same kind of quality where I grip and I feel very heavy and relaxed with the body without kind of coming into tension with the whole body. So just look for this feeling. Now you're going to slice, right, and really feel that you connect the grip to the underside of the arm and the back of the body. So I should feel the whole back, the lower back kind of lights up and engages in the movement. So again, you do left side to right side. Slice out, take the grip. There. And just that point. Just looking for the grip. So. Good. Good. Nice, Caroline, good. Nice, everyone's good. Mm-hmm. Good. Just there's one small distinction between, in a way, if I work with the sword, between kind of slicing away from the person like this and basically slicing through them. So in this case, the sense of the sword cutting motion is like this, rather than kind of slicing away from them. Also possible with the sword. But in terms of handwork, what that translates to is the idea of pulling away or spiraling through the core this way. So what I want to do in this case is much more a sense of kind of coiling through a spiral this way. And that was a bit of a pull. So what I don't want to do is basically that, basically where the body kind of leaves the encounter. So I want to, in a sense, what I'm trying to do is get right to the center of the person. Get right in, and then just now come into the ikkyo. Just look for that feeling. The feeling's basically that I'm creating a spiral through the system here, and then it goes back towards the person. This way. That's that. So just play now, coming into the ikkyo. Slice out, take the grip. There. That's it. That's it. Oh, and Adrian's got a big, thick, heavy one. Good, let's see. He's got the thick. Ah, yeah, good. Okay, he's a good man, please.
He's also got a Christmas tree to try and leave in place.
Yeah, actually, Adrian's got the perfect tool. I've got one too, so I just show you. So when you do this, for me, it's also good for this exercise because this is basically the thickness of an arm. So I use this as also kind of nice stuff. If you can get something also that's a little bit thicker, if you do these are also nice stuff. Basically, just to really focus now on the grip. As you come in, you've obviously got now the second hand coming into the grip. So I need to now keep basically this grip. And again, this is really clear that if I go into tension, I basically pull the body out of the ground. So as you come through, really find the back grip. And the feeling first is really find that you find the back of the hand. So that side of the hand. And then as I come through, I basically close the grip. So it basically links through the lower body. What I'm actually doing, this is where it's really related to sword work, is the sense of cutting through the movement. But at the same time of cutting, I'm taking the grip. So it's got this kind of quality, this. So just find that as you get to this position, here, as you come through, really get the sense of this, arcing through, and then I basically close onto it, and take the ikkyo this way. Just a few. So Bokken's good for this exercise, but something a little bit thicker is also good because you're basically replicating the arm. Very good. Nice. Very nice. So just the last few. That's it. And then again, just go into the whole movement and just focus on the quality. The basic quality is the same as before, which is the same as the sword work. The feeling of really grounding, really gripping quite strongly, but it not locking up the system. So just play, if you like, a little bit with a little bit of cutting. You've got this kind of motion, a little bit of just grabbing. This, so I want a sense of really heavy, but also expanded and open. That, and just play a little bit with this ikkyo, so coming through, and then here. And all the time that sensation's the same. So what I'm doing in the hands is exactly the same. Just the ikkyo is much more opened out. So you've got a very simple movement in the cut. And in this case, I'm just using it in a sense for grip training. So, rang, and rang. It all has the same kind of quality. That's it. So, there we go. Nice. Good. And the last 30 seconds or so, just feel you can slightly open the movement out a little bit. So just play a little bit where we ended yesterday, a little bit of kind of jiwaza. And now I'm really focusing on quality of connection, passing the spirals, and also at the same time looking for a very firm Actually, the best way is sealed. So I want to really seal the grip. So the bokken should feel totally sealed in the hands. It's about sealing the connection to the sword. Which is really what we do in the first Suburi. Really about sealing the hands. One. Sealing the connection is the one. That. One. That's it. That's cute. That's it. So, okay, we will stop there. Hey, どうもありがとうございました。
どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
Thank you.